right, Ways and Means Committee meeting will come to order. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Davis. Present. Alderman Moore, Alderman Vaccaro. Present. Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Murphy. Alderwoman Boyd. Present. Alderman Muhammad.
Present.
Chairman Williamson.
Here.
Alderman Moore, Alderwoman Howard, Alderwoman Murphy, 5 present. You have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Today we have 2 departments on the agenda. First, we have the Communication Division, and later on we will have the Street Department. So we're going to ask the Director of the Communication Division to come up and start a presentation, please. I'm sorry?
I said you promoted me today as
Okay,
commissioner.
all right. Wait, state your correct title.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Curtis, the Director of Public
Curtis,
Utilities.
Director, Mrs. Scobie,
And
okay, I
yes,
apologize.
and I'm the Communications Commissioner, so good morning.
Communication Commissioner, okay.
I apologize, I had this on the schedule for 9:30, so apparently I was supposed to be here at 9, so
Okay.
I do apologize
All right, no problem.
for that oversight. So just to give you a little bit, I think everyone here is familiar with STL-TV, so I won't go into the whole bit about the division and all of that, but I would like to just say with respect to the proposed budget, it obviously presents us with additional challenges as it does every year. We certainly are one of the busiest local government access channels in this Midwest, and we do a lot of work for this Board of Aldermen. 2014, we were sort of mandated in the spring of 2014 to cover all of the committee meetings of the Board of Aldermen, as well as public hearings. We went from initially covering those meetings based on requests from members of whoever chaired that committee to being mandated to have to cover all of them. So in doing so, we essentially went from 38 regular board meetings every Friday to covering close to about 100 and give and take 160 committee meetings a year. We also are responsible for maintaining the YouTube channel associated with that. So all of the meetings that we produce on behalf of the board, we have to put them onto the YouTube channel. We have a 72-hour window to do that, and we are challenged on a regular to do that. Sometimes these meetings coincide with other meetings, so we've got to have personnel here, we've got to have personnel in another location, as well as all the other things that we try to do in support of city government with the various offices, whether it's out of the mayor's office or other elected officials, but as well just to provide support as a resource for various departments who are trying to communicate with city residents. So we are constantly churning with a very limited staff and a budget that gets cut every single year. We rely on per performance employees. There are only 7 people that are in the programming section. The per performance employees are really the lifeline for us because we only have so many people that we can get into various locations. When you got 4 people, one is always at the station that's trying to make sure that the channel is on the air, that the programs are getting onto YouTube, and that we're getting everything communicated out. So when there's time for us to look at this budget, what happens is I've got to get to the point where I can cut. We have about $50,000 in operations. The rest of it is in personnel. So that's all of my tapes, that's all of my office supplies, that's all that's left. And so when I go to try to meet what has been appropriated to us to fit it, you know, the last thing that I have to look at or that's really available to me is my per performance. And that's where my videographers are, that's where my editors are, that's where my producers are. And so it really does have an impact on us overall. This past year, we have been contacted by residents who are interested in closed captioning, and it is actually an ADA compliance matter that the channel be closed caption, or that the programs at least are closed caption. It's a challenge because the equipment is about $40,000 to be able to do that on a 24-hour schedule for all of the programs that are needed. Again, I've got all of my money goes into personnel, $50,000 left for everything else. There's no place in there for us to meet that mandate, but it is required, and I know this resident is very adamant about pursuing actions with the city with regard to that, but we have not been compliant for a number of years at this point. The other hat that I wear is we also have a regulatory section, and our regulatory affairs is responsible for telecom right-of-way management on behalf of the Board of Public Service. This coming year, we're actively and aggressively looking at small cells and 5G equipment being installed and placed throughout the city. And we are going to play a very important role in that this year. There are really just 3 people in my regulatory section. I have 2 inspectors and myself. It is very challenging to stay on top of what is coming, new technologies, and what we do on a day-to-day basis. But we do anticipate that we are going to see about 100% increase in our regulatory affairs inspections in the coming year, simply because that's where we're heading. Lots of new equipment to be placed in the city, a lot of oversight, and you know, we don't really have enough people to get it all done. So I always am concerned about that. So if you look at our budget, you'll see that, you know, our gasoline is cut. I've got to make the numbers fit, while I already know that my gasoline, for example, is going to go up because we've got to go out and do inspections. But I've got to make it fit an appropriation. I talked about this last year about our custodial services in the division. Well, with last year's budget, we ended up going from 8 hours a week to 6. I think there's a possibility that there may be an additional increase in those fees this year, which means we will probably cut that back again by another hour. We're getting to that point where we're not going to have very much left to be able to just maintain a building that is about 9,800 square feet. And I'll just kind of wrap that up by just saying at the end, you know, cable franchise fees are estimated to be close to $3 million. We're also looking at regulatory right-of-way fees collected to be close to $2 million. So that's about $5 million. The division is funded strictly from the cable franchise fee that is collected, not out of general revenue. So out of a $5 million that we are responsible for making sure gets to the city, we get about 18% of that. It is really having an impact on us to be able to follow through on a lot of the mandated things that are currently facing us going into the new fiscal year. Not sure that we'd be able to cover every committee meeting, every activity that we are required to do. We're doing it, but it is stressing everybody because there's limited personnel, everything's cut, and we haven't seen an increase in our budget in a number of years, probably 10 years or so. Our budget is either stagnant or it's reduced. Even if it's reduced by $5,000 or $10,000, it's continually reduced. We're trying our best to come up with new efficiencies, you know, with equipment and things like that, so we don't have to put out as much manpower, but we can only do so much because we don't get monies for new equipment to be able to continue to do that. So it just keeps us in a limited state. Over and over and over again, and you know, in an industry where technology is constantly changing, constantly evolving, we are still behind the times in a lot of ways. But you know, that's kind of an overview of where the division stands at this point, going into this fiscal year. There was a small cut, but a cut nonetheless, and it is going to have an impact on division and our services in the new year.
Very good. I just want to commend you guys for the good job that you've been doing when it comes to recording a lot of our committee meetings and the Board of Aldermen. You know, having that tool and having that channel of the communication STL TV, it shares a lot of transparency throughout the city of St. Louis, and it gives people a chance to get engaged what's going on when it comes to the city of St. Louis and politics and how things work. So I think that's very important. I wish something I could do or some of the members could do to enhance your budget. As you know, we only have the ability to cut. They only give us knives up here to just slice, but we can't. I wish we could add on, but maybe it's something we can do or try to impress the Board of VMA, and maybe to increase your budget would be nice. But just want to commend you for the excellent job that your staff has been doing and continue to do to inform the residents of the city of St. Louis. So,
Thank you.
all right, so we'll go ahead and start asking questions. Alderwoman. Go ahead, you can start. Alderwoman Davis.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'll go ahead and be the bad guy. I don't have any problems with that. I know last year it was important for us to try to convince all the powers that be to add some money back to your budget after it was cut. And I know it wasn't still enough. But one of the things I want to ask you, have you explored how other cities are funding their cable station? Is it mandated by law for a certain percentage of the fees that come in, or do you know any of that?
I don't know state by state, but I know within this state, it is not mandated that those fees that are collected be used specifically for a government access
So
channel.
do we have to go to the state level to work on this?
Well, it's probably something we could fix here.
Fix it locally, then we should fix it locally. I have no issues with that. That's something that we can explore. We need to put something in place that cannot be manipulated in any kind of way, because I'm going to tell you something. We can't go backwards. The community loves the fact that they can now see and hear what is going on for themselves by not reading what's in a newspaper or listening to what we may say. They also, you provide a service too, for outside of this, you cover a lot of community events.
Absolutely.
And I think that the service that you provide is so healthy. You see, we got senior citizens that are homebound. We've got young people whose parents don't take them anywhere, but yet they have the opportunity to watch things on TV. So it's healthy for our community. So that's something that we can look at. Since we don't have the fortitude to understand the importance of it on our own, then we can mandate it. So that's something to look at. What is your shortfall for this year that you, I mean, if we could just do anything to convince?
We like to be whole with respect to our per performance budget. We do need equipment, but if there were, a minimum, I think Andre and I have talked a little bit about what the needs are on the programming side, and he'd love to see another $25,000 in his per performance budget. Now that's to answer that question.
Okay.
That would be helpful because, again, that's where the slice happens when I have nothing else left. That's where the slice happens. And so as we look at, continuing to cover for almost 200 Board of Aldermen events, meetings and things of that nature, in addition to, as I said, all the other things, it's just, 4 full-time people that we have that we're struggling to move and maneuver into all kinds of positions. So we have to have that human capital, if you will, to help us. And so that would be, I think, if I were to, be given anything, that would be something that we would want off the top.
Well, the other matter that you shared with us, in order to avoid a lawsuit, I think it would be smart for us to make the money available for the equipment that you need in order to have caption on these shows. So have you already looked at the cost for that?
We have. It's, Andre has those numbers more specific, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about $40,000. We've been talking to other entities within city government, so through our ADA office with CREA, to see whether or not there's a possibility that some funds might be available somewhere. but we're looking at about $40,000 for equipment. And the thing about closed captioning equipment, if you've ever looked at it, you know, it takes really not only the equipment doing the work, but you need a human to review that. Because without it, if you ever do YouTube and look at YouTube's closed captioning, they don't always understand, like even the word alderman.
Right.
Depending on how someone pronounces it, it could be utterman, it's all over the place. And so it really does require a human to go back and review that scripting to make sure that, you know, it's clear, spelled correctly and things of that nature. So, you know, it's a combination of those two things that are needed to do that. And
Okay, so let's think outside the box on this. We want to get the equipment for sure, but let's try to find us a partnership with one or both of our major universities and get one of their graduate students to come in and help us with that. I think long-term, that could help both entities to have the ability for their students to get that kind of training and exposure, and then maybe we can save on the actual employment of an individual, but still have that additional service available. So that's another way to help with that. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be speaking up for you, okay?
All right, appreciate
I don't know how far it's going to go, but, you know, sometimes we can all be stubborn to the point of ridiculous. I don't mind doing that for you. Because you do really serve a great purpose. And we cannot cut back now. We can't say, well, we'll only do this type of committee, or we'll only do, we can't do that anymore.
Right.
And we've gone too far, people expect it, they want it, and we have to make sure that it's available.
They do, and we also air all of these on, it's on YouTube, so we're able to actually see, you know, what the volume is. I think we're averaging over 20,000 views a month on our YouTube
that's
channel.
a
So
lot.
there is a lot of people who are definitely interested. So, you know, we need what the programming we're producing for cable, for the TV, for a lot of our seniors who are home watching it, but there's also the hits that we're getting on YouTube, which are averaging close to 20 to 21,000 hits a month. So people are watching, people are tuned in, people are interested and engaged, and, you know, it's important, so.
Okay, I thank you so much. I'm done, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Davis, good suggestions, and I'm willing to work with you on that. See what we can do to implement them getting more help, especially from college students, and maybe some donations if that's possible to keep them going. All right, Alderman Vaccaro.
So the number that you need added to your budget's 40,000?
Related to the equipment, yes.
What is the number you're looking for that you need added to your budget? Because we
65
could
would
cut-
be the full number.
What's
65 would be the full number, I guess, that we would be asking for if we're talking about the equipment for ADA compliance and then for added personnel to help out.
because we can cut other departments and add back to your department. So the one thing I'll be looking for is to cut and find that.
And
So as long as I know
yes,
the
sir.
number, I know what to cut.
And that's why I've always mentioned, you know, with the cable revenues, to be aware that the amount that's appropriated to us in cable revenues is not the full intake of cable franchise fees. So with cable franchise fees being close to $3 million, our appropriation is 905. So there are funds that are allocated to other places for other purposes. I'm sure just as important, but that's what source is used to pay
Sure,
for
so-
the operations.
So out of the money that's collected on people's cable bills, which is roughly $3 million, how
Yes.
much do you get?
The appropriation this year was 905.
So 900,000?
Yes, sir.
And the rest of the money that, of course, I like how they always say, well, we voted, but this is what it was supposed to be. Yet, over $2 million of that money that is supposed to be going to that,
Or could.
that people are paying, over $2 million of that money is diverted to somewhere else.
Yes, sir.
That's what I thought. Okay, that was it, but we'll find it.
Okay. Thank you.
You finished, Alderman? You done? Okay, all right. Alderwoman Murphy,
No questions, everything was asked and answered, thank you.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Hello, how you all doing?
Good morning.
Alderman Muhammad and myself was kind of looking over your budget, and I'm kind of disturbed myself. Because of the work, it seems that you all have been constantly cut, and your work has increased. But my question to you is, have you did a rough budget to kind of show the percentage of increase that you have accumulated over the years to compare to the cuts that you have gotten? And him and I were really looking at, which was ironic, they cut you on the gas, and gas is constantly going up. So that's my question to you.
Yes. Yes, we have. I mean, in terms of
Okay.
trying to figure out how we're going to situate this. With per performance, for example, just to use that, we also have a guarantee of a number of hours that we have to guarantee a person that works. So even if I only needed them to cover this meeting for that 1 hour, maybe an hour and a half, we have to pay them for 3 hours. There's also the issue that there are raises that take place, I guess they're in January of each year. So it's kind of hard to figure that into, 6 months of the year, I've got to put this new raise in for this group of individuals as well. So that also has an impact. But we know in terms of the number of hours overall, what that has done in terms of increasing how we are allocating people and what we've had to cut out, because it has resulted in us having to cut things. I mean, obviously, we can't do 100% of what we were
Right.
doing before, so we've had to try to cut it to help it fit. And so when we look at it, what those hours turn out to be, Andre's got a number of whatever those hours are for the employee meetings and things like that. So, those are things that increase in terms of personnel's usage and per performance, as well as our full-time employees. So I can get you more specific information relative to what those numbers actually look like.
Right.
But, it's required us to take things out in order to fit this in for the most part.
And I think, and I'm in agreement with Alderwoman Davis, that what you all are doing is valuable work because it's the marketing piece for the city. And so I'm in agreement with her also to see what we need to do to help you all to get some of those dollars back. And so, you know how they say you ask for a lot, you might get half. So
Right.
that's what we're pushing on, to get as much as we can, because I'm just curious the way technology has advanced so. And it seems that your department relies on technology to help us.
Yes.
It's just like when people look at catering events and they're like, oh, that's all pretty, but they don't know the work that in
Yeah,
detail. So
absolutely.
they see your end result,
Absolutely.
but they don't know the man hours and what it takes for you to get to that point. So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna agree with Alderwoman Davis. I want to work with her to see how we can help, you all to get what you need. It might not be all, but, at least they'll hear our voices.
Absolutely. We appreciate that. And as I
Yeah.
said, we're trying to look at efficiencies. Before we used to do this meeting, we'd send 2 people down. Now we've got cameras, which allows us to not have to have 2 and 3 camera individuals present. So, we're trying to work within the new framework that is our new reality, but it can only go so far.
Right, right.
We do have to have humans involved in the process of creating these. It can't all be a digital process. Andre wants to chime in if you don't mind.
And I appreciate you bringing up the fact about technology, because that's extremely important. Even though we were able to have our engineer Ken Roberts set this system up so that we wouldn't have to have a full staff to cover these meetings, we're not even at the same capacity as any other government channel in the Midwest.
Right,
In the state of Missouri, every other government channel is HD.
right.
We are the biggest. We produce the most content out of any city in the state of Missouri. But we have to use SD cameras. We're not even on HD. Somebody asked me, said, why when we look at the images of the committee meetings on YouTube, why do they look so grainy? I said, well, we're still in standard definition. And so it's hard to do your craft when you're not given the resources to do what you need to do.
Right.
I mean, we've been through this song and dance for I don't know how many years, and I appreciate you all listening to us, but it becomes to get frustrating.
Right.
And my staff, they get frustrated because they don't understand. If you want us to do the job, then give us the tools to do the job. If you don't want us to do the job, then don't let us do it.
Right.
But let us be efficient. Let us look professional at what we do.
Right.
And it just doesn't make sense. And you talked about marketing. The city of St. Louis does not have a marketing division. There's no one in the mayor's office that markets the city of St. Louis. You have the CVC, and they basically do tourism. They're promoting in Kansas City people to come and visit St. Louis. But who is here trying to lift the self-esteem of the residents of the city of St. Louis? Who's telling stories about the city of St. Louis? Who's telling the positive things? You have to combat what the news is doing. And if you don't do that, then what is going to happen to the morale of the people that live here? We have the capability. We have the staff. But you got to give us the resources to do what we can do. We just did a piece about the 19th Ward. I cannot tell you how many people were surprised to hear about this company that didn't get TIF money to do a major project. People don't know about those stories unless you tell them. So that's my big issue. We come here and we do this. Sometimes it's a different committee. I mean, obviously everyone doesn't stay here, but you know, and everyone here usually says the same thing. They understand. They understand our pain. But what are we gonna do about it? It's the structure that's messed up. And until we get the structure in place, then it'll just continue to be us coming before you all saying the same thing. So.
Andre, hold on. Video production supervisor, manager, very passionate about his job.
He is
He loves his job, he loves the city as we all do. So
Yeah.
we just want to always be able to put our best foot forward in presenting all the information out to the residents in as best the quality manner that we can. And, you know, everything out that we watch on TV is HD. We just can't give them an HD signal, and it does make a difference. So, you know, those are things
What do you
that.
presently have, just one HD camera? Two. Oh, you have two now? Okay. Well, it's not much, that's a little bit. I remember for the longest, you just had one.
We did.
I mean, I'm not trying to be facetious,
Takes a lot to get to two.
but, yeah, you need quite a bit
But that,
improvement of
and
technology.
our update, the last time we updated our facility was 2008. And that was with after a charter agreement, and they actually helped us in being able to upgrade the facility. So we're basically dealing with the same equipment that we had
Yeah.
back then.
In '08, yeah,
And, yeah,
that is sad.
donated items.
Are you finished, Alderwoman?
Yes, I'm sorry. Andre just, and I mean, I guess my frustration is I looked at the books, they keep cutting, and that's what's frustrating to me. So whatever I can do, please don't hesitate to let me know, and I'll rely on my mentor to help me figure this out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Muhammad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, so you said that there are normally 20,000 views on a YouTube channel.
On an average every month, yes.
Okay. What is the traffic on STL TV?
So we are not on any kind of arbitration list that allows us to be able to tell what that is. So our numbers are generally based on how many people actually subscribe that have the possibility to watch. So on Charter Cable, I think their numbers in terms of the number of households they're serving is roughly 45,000 households. And then we're also on AT&T UVerse. They have a smaller commitment in terms of their numbers, and I don't know exactly what those numbers are because they are not mandated to share that information with us.
Okay, so So there is no real way to tell if STL TV is effective in reaching out to,
Not through cable.
so I'm just trying to figure out what's the benefit of being on a cable network if we cannot track the usage of it.
Well, it does not cost the city anything to be on the cable channel. It is part of what was a franchise agreement, but still is mandated under FCC that a local government access channel be provided. So it is provided to us at no cost. So there's no cost to the city at this point. So it's just another resource for residents to have access to information such as this meeting, as you know, and that's why we're utilizing other resources such as, you know, being online through YouTube. We also have an app that folks can pull up and actually watch the meeting live here now or whatever we have programmed for the day. So, you know, I do rely on the numbers related more to the online because that's the easiest means that I have to be able to access viewership, interest in various programs that are on. But there is no real way for us to do it unless we do some kind of survey. And at this point in time, because there is no active franchise agreement between the city and any cable provider, certain things that we used to be able to put in place, which could have given us additional numbers, we no longer are required to do that. Or they're no longer required because there is no franchise agreement. The state took over that in 2007. So it took away the city's right to have a cable franchise, and we no longer have a cable franchise. But they are required to pay a 5% franchise fee to the city for every subscriber.
So you did say there is a downloadable app.
Yes.
Do we have numbers on how many people actually downloaded this application?
That, I don't have that number. Do you know that number, Andre? Yeah, we don't. It's been about a year. Yeah, we've had it for about a year. So I don't have that number, but I can get that number to you.
And so I do see, I agree with the Alderwoman from the 27th. Your division keeps getting cut each year, is how it seems. And under public relations, which is a drastic cut it looks like, will public relations be responsible for promoting STL TV or the communications division?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Because I didn't even know we had an application. I didn't know that was a mobile app. So I can imagine how many residents
don't know as
also
well.
don't know.
Right. We do announcements on the television. You know, we've got a lot of ads from that perspective, but yeah, it's hard for us to get information out. I mean, we're not able to buy print time or any commercial time or anything like that to further expand people's knowledge of what it is that we have to offer. So it's slow to get that rollout of information because we just don't have enough people as well, but I'll make sure we get you the app information.
And you have 11 full-time staff members?
Yes. So you have 7? 7. Yeah. 7 full-time is in production. There are 2 regulatory inspectors and myself and secretary. There's also my payroll clerk, office manager.
Keep going.
Yeah, it goes on. And she takes vacation, so the next couple of days I'm trying to figure out payroll. So hopefully.
Well, you guys are definitely underfunded. And I will work with the Alderwoman from the 19th and 27th to figure out how can we get you guys more resources.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is pretty ridiculous.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Very good, appreciate your comments. Alderwoman Davis, you can go ahead.
You know, I wanted to just say something very quickly. When we talked about people could do their marketing on our station if they pay for it, but that's something we need to include in all these departments when people are coming in to get business license, occupancy license, you need to have something that is handed out to these business people, because a lot of them really can't afford a Post-Dispatch or an Alive magazine or whatever, but they could afford you.
Yes.
And it could help them. And it would give us a way, too, to know about new businesses that are coming to the city, because we don't always know what's going on in each other's wards.
Right.
So I think if we could offer that, to have some additional income for you to come in, if I were you, I would explore that and look at a package you offer people, or a one-time thing to announce their businesses, but explore that, because that's income that now you can keep and control. That's another part of when you mandate things, we have to make sure some things are taken care of that cannot be touched.
Yes.
So the other part to that too is when I was listening to the alderman from the 21st, it is very ironic that a department that makes their own money is always cut. That is just amazing. In corporate America, that's not how it works. And so I'm always loud and vocal for the building department, your department, people who make money for the city and make money for their department to cover their, why are we cutting you? That is just not on any level of common sense to operate anything. So I'm going to continue to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Appreciate it. Appreciate the comments, and appreciate you coming in, Madam Commissioner, and Andre, and you heard the comments of all the members, so I'm willing, just as well as the rest of us are willing, to try to help you out to increase your funding so we can improve your capability of really keeping the city informed and doing the great things you've been doing. So again, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your comments and support. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Okay, next we have the Street Department coming up. We have the Commissioner, Mr. Jamie Wilson. He's welcome to come up and do his presentation of the Street Department. Welcome, Mr. Wilson. How you doing?
Thanks for having us.
If you can introduce your staff too. We appreciate that. Thank you.
We're here from the Street Department, the city's operation and maintenance for the streets and alleys. We're subdivided into the Director's Office, which is 510, which handles permits, inspections, 50/50 program, sewer lateral repair, general administration for the rest of the divisions. We're also divided into the Street Division, which is 514, which handles our paving, potholes, snow removal, flood control, our paving efforts. Also, we have our traffic and lighting, which is 511, which handles all traffic control in the city, whether it's traffic signals, signing, striping, street lights. And we also have our refuse division, 516, which is our collection of yard waste, solid waste, and recycling. And we also have our towing division, which is 513, which handles, in coordination with police and parking, clearing of vehicles from the right-of-way. I'm Jamie Wilson, Director. I'm joined by Kent Flake, our Commissioner of Street Division, Deanna Venker, our Commissioner of Traffic and Lighting, and Nick Young, our Refuse Commissioner. So our budget from fiscal 18, we saw a 3% increase from fiscal 18. I think a large part of that is due to the trash fee increase we had last year. Otherwise, I think we'd be closer to 1% increase. I don't know if you guys want to go division by division or how you want to lead the discussion.
Give a plan on, I'm going to introduce your commissioners, and then you have to want to go whichever these on, or how you want to do it, break it down division by division.
We can go division by division, kind of talk about where the increases were, the high level, and then if you guys have any questions about the divisions, I can have them step in and answer that in more detail for you guys. Our Director's Office, as I said, is the permits and inspections, 50/50 sewer lateral. In our general fund, we saw, just in the division itself, closer to a 10% increase from last year. A large portion of that, probably 3/4 or more of that, is due to the increase for funding the crossing guards. I think that was about 91,000 out of the 121,000 that we saw for the increase in the Director's Office. That's again from a high level perspective. Last year, I believe we were funded for about three schools for crossing guards, and this year that figure is higher. From our traffic and lighting division, we saw about a 1% increase from that particular division from fiscal 18. Major portions of that were due to an increase in funding our streetlight poles, the materials in order to replace them. We find that even though we cut down that line item as far as our maintenance, that we end up having to find that money somewhere to fix the knockdowns that occur over the course of a year in the city. We also have our LED program for the streetlights replacement program, where it is a loan that we are paying back. We are going to obviously incur savings for the LEDs that use less energy. So in the end, we're actually saving money. We're just kicking off our second phase, which I believe is at $2 million loan. Our first phase was about $1 million. So this year on fiscal 19, you'll see debt service for us to start paying that loan back. Our towing division, they saw about a 7% increase. Most of that was, probably 3/4 of that was in our personal services as far as our staff for that. It's a rather small division in itself, so that represents a big change. Our street maintenance, 514, we saw about a 3% increase from last year from fiscal 18. Some of the things, we had a larger line item for our workers' compensation settlements than last year. That's about nearly half of the increase that we saw. And then the remainder was in predominantly in our materials, our salt and chemical supply for de-icing. 516, we saw about a 5% increase from fiscal 18. A large portion of that, again, was workers' compensation settlements, and also the trash fee increase that I mentioned before. We saw an increase in our equipment that we're buying now. In previous years, where we had cut for savings purposes, now we have the trash fee increase to help fund the replacement of our trash trucks, which we're in serious need. Where, if you hadn't heard, they were about 17 years on average age. This program over 20 years will be able to bring that average up to closer to 10 or 7 to 10 years average age, which is considered acceptable for a city of our size. So this year we'll see debt service on that as well to be able to fund that. That in general is the high level increases that you see. Again, 3% increase from last year, and I would say we're probably closer to a 1% increase if you didn't count the trash fee increase.
All right, very good. Just had a couple of questions. On your trash trucks, I know you guys may have a problem with that, along with a lot of your heavy equipment too that needs to be replaced. So with the increase that we're paying, I guess, on our trash bills, and I know it's taking you guys a while to replace those vehicles, those trucks, can you kind of elaborate and let us know exactly when do you think we'll pretty much have, fairly new trucks throughout the whole city? I know it's going to take some time, so can you kind of tell us about that?
Sure. In fiscal 18, as we're wrapping up here, we had, I believe, 16 new trucks. We've got 2 or 3 more coming, I think, for a total of 19 in fiscal 18. So we only have 16 now, but we've got another 3 coming. And then in fiscal 19, there'll be an additional 6 trucks per the replacement program.
So 3 now.
Yes.
Yes, 3
Well,
and
we have
then
16 now, another 3 coming this summer, funded through fiscal 18, and then fiscal 19 will afford us the ability to purchase 6.
Gotcha. Okay, very good.
And in the end, throughout that program, there'll be a replacement of about 80 trucks overall. We just have to
Okay.
do it in bite-sized portions every year. And that's a combination of cash purchases and lease purchases as well.
Okay.
So that's why you'll see the line item for cash, and then you'll see the debt service for the lease purchase ones.
Okay. And the executive assistant too, I know that position is open, that's a 17M. Are you plan on, you guys plan on hiring anybody, or are you just gonna leave that position open, or?
We were going to revamp the duties performed by that position. That was a high-level position that I think we found a more efficient way to operate those duties. Between the roles that we have an open clerk supervisor position that would work directly with the permit clerks as far as dealing with the public interface, the contractors that come in to get their permits, some of the special event items, as well as they're already currently, in order to make some of these decisions related to the permits, it involves the different commissioners and myself as a director with our guidance as well. So I think collectively out of the division of the department that we can operate that in a more efficient way.
Thank you. Okay. Alderwoman Davis, do you have any questions?
I was curious, do you think it's a better method for us to lease instead of buying? Because we know that that's the longevity about what it is. Do we want to keep something so long that you're continually spending money on repairs? Or do you just want to pay a lease amount and then you can turn them in and keep our fleet healthy and not get into where we are now?
Right, I think the key for that, not avoiding the lease versus cash purchases, but the key to that is keeping a program. So after this 20-year program, for example, we don't stop for another 20 years before we have another 20-year program. I think we need to keep a plan in place so we don't end up in a situation where we have to do something major in nature. The cash, I get, that's the way to, the lease purchase is a way to minimize our costs in that certain year. Granted, we're going to end up paying interest on that in the long run, but that is a fine balance of something we need to figure out the best way to do in the future.
Okay. So you are looking at it. You're looking at the options to balance this.
Constantly looking, yes.
Okay, because when I looked at the numbers before when we were trying to figure out how to make this happen, and I'm sitting here with a truck that's 17 years old, that makes no sense at all. No one puts themselves in that kind of position.
Absolutely, and that's,
yeah.
and we had part of our issues sometimes is there's a lot of things that lead to inability to retain staff, but one of our issues or obstacles with those old trucks is we're losing people that don't feel like working on a truck that's always breaking down or feels dangerous to be in those tight alleys and those tight situations with the cables overhead and lifting a heavy dumpster. So we did find a lot of times we're getting complaints as far as our staff, their comfort in performing their duties every day in a situation like that.
Okay. Another thing too is when we look at the way we operate, so a lot of people complain that their trash is not picked up, although we believe that the people are out there on their route. And so one of the things I've been looking at, and I'll get around to talking to you about it later on, Jamie, is that there are some processes out here with GPS that guides you to the trash dumpster based on the weight that's in the dumpster to let you know whether or not you should even stop and pick that up, which gives us more efficiency and with that employee out on the route. And so there are a lot of new things that we probably need to look at to bring us up to date. Is that anything that you have any awareness of?
Yeah, well, yes, absolutely. We're already in the process of testing tablets out in the trash trucks as far as for drivers that fill in to have preloaded maps with directions, preferably voice directions, but the very minimal a visual for people filling into the most what the route is and the most efficient way to run it. What we find is it ends up being kind of a custom written thing as your phone as you do it. It's mapped to a street. There's no Google directions when you're running alleys, so it almost ends up being a thing. It does end up being a thing with a map that has to be loaded and then drawn. But it is a thing that we're working on right now with the IT department and going to be testing out with those tablets. And also those tablets will give us the ability with the uplink we're going to have on them as the guys are out on the street running the alleys to start reporting things that they see, not necessarily related to the refuse division themselves, but if they see other things out. Signal poles knocked down or street lights knocked down, anything like that versus waiting to hear from the public on it. This will be a way for our own staff to start doing some self-reporting on issues that are out there. Hopefully we can get things resolved before even the public has to issue a complaint about them.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, I'm done.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderman Vaccaro.
Jamie, the assistant, or the executive assistant pays $62,000. It sounds like you have a better idea. What's interesting is that's just about the amount that the cable TV people are asking for. So it would be my thoughts, especially if you're not filling it, that we would take that money and move it over there. What would be your objection to that?
Well, we do want to fill that, so that's a plus. We do have or a minus. We do have some pluses as far as filling that clerk supervisor position. Then we also have, I should have mentioned, we have the job Complete Streets Coordinator. It's the engineering position to oversee our Complete Streets program and policy. By ordinance, we're required to do some things. So we have that ready to go as far as an engineering position in the director's office to oversee that we're following per ordinance.
But that's already in your budget, right? It's funded.
It is,
it's
yeah,
funded.
is one of the increases.
But what I'm saying is the executive assistant isn't, it's funded but not filled, and doesn't sound like it's necessary. It sounds to me. I mean, I'm just putting that out there. I mean, that would be, one of the issues. The other is I wouldn't mind having a after-hours number for you. I have it for almost everybody else.
Okay, for sure.
So I wouldn't mind having that.
I'll announce it now, but that'll be on.
No, you don't,
online,
no,
so I won't do
just
For
email
sure.
me or text me. I don't give it
Yep.
out to anybody. And I've had these conversations this morning with Todd, but the speed hump signs, it has to be 100 feet from the hump itself, right? Is what I was told.
I think it depends. If we have a series of speed humps down a street where we're going to have, if they're 500 feet apart, maybe we're not going to put a sign to every one. Maybe you put one as you enter and exit, or enter from both sides, or exit if there's cross streets. So there's no, I guess, cookie cutter answer for it. It depends on the situation.
Well,
if it's an isolated hump, you would have signs right at the speed hump, or if it's not a good place to mount a sign, that you would do it in advance. So it's kind of, there's no hard set rule on that.
Well, I was told there was, and they put one in front of somebody's house, and then we had it moved, and then it got moved in front of somebody else's house that wasn't happy, and we finally got on a street light, which was fine. Yet, I was driving close to well, I won't say where I was driving, because of, but, what Todd will tell you, by his house, yet the sign is at the top of the street, very far away from where the speed hump is. Not within 100 feet,
Is that for the single hump, or is that on?
the single hump.
I think there's
So-
two. There's two on, if it's Prague, then
Well,
there's going
okay,
to be
but
two, or you maybe would have one on each
well,
approach.
there's not one close to that, and I'll go out and take pictures. I'm fine, but I believe that the thing should be at the beginning of a street and not on top of it. I just don't want to be treated differently.
Oh, you won't be.
It seems like sometimes we're when I'm getting multiple complaints about trash not being picked up, and when I bring it to, in this case was again Todd's attention this morning, where he says, well, so he wants me to send him pictures, so I sent him a bunch of pictures. I called Nick and Randy, and they're fairly responsive. Todd's answer is, well, maybe we should fire Nick and Randy. Well, it's just a smart-ass answer.
Alderman. Watch your language. And we want to really keep these questions
I am.
germane to the budget. And, I'm sure they'll hang out, or they'll stay around after this meeting's over. So just kind of consult with them. If you got any budget questions, I'm not trying to cut you off, Alderman, but just, you want to keep your questions germane to the budget. Nothing wrong with asking a few, but you're kind of going off base here.
Okay, and I'm on refuge.
All right.
And we're talking about trash that has not been picked up, okay? And
Right, but,
this is about, we're told that they bought 16 new trucks, okay, and we got 3 more coming.
yeah.
The excuse I always get is, well, you don't have trucks, they're all broke down. Yeah,
We understand that, and I think the, director explained that we have issues throughout the whole city when it comes to trash pickups, and because of the, deterioration of the fleet. They're leaking oil and all that. We understand that. We've been through that, and that's kind of through the streets committee meetings to kind of deal with that. We just want to kind of stay germane on focusing on the budget.
I believe
that's all.
this is germane to the budget, because
Well,
we had an
speed
increase.
humps on the top of the street isn't, those type of questions, so. But go ahead and
I'm on Refuge. I was beyond speed humps.
Okay, well, I'm just
And
saying,
I'm talking
it has
about-
nothing to do with
I'm talking
dollars and
about-
cents, is what I'm saying.
Well, this is
Go ahead.
dollars and cents.
Go ahead. Wrap it up, wrap it up.
We've increased the trash fee. We've added an additional $3, and you said that we have increased revenue because of it. To me, I would think that this problem should be solved. I'm just curious where the money's going.
Right now-
if we're not getting people out on the street, and why we're
Right,
having
so our
these
issue
issues.
before was a lack of trucks. Now we've split our staff because there's a lack of trucks, a certain pot of trucks available, given the routes that need to be run per day. So as we wait for those new trucks to come in to replenish that, we've split our staff into two. For that same pot now, we're going to split half and half. So we're running from 4 a.m. in the morning till 12 and 12 to 8. So to make that enough trucks available anytime. Now we're nipping at the heels of the availability of our staff that's available for that to complete those. So right now on our budget, I believe we actually got cut one of our trash truck drivers, which is kind of our Achilles heel right now. We need to be at a higher level to be able to keep the right amount of staff on street. We've got 55 alley routes a day and 13 or 14 cart routes a day, and we're having a difficulty keeping the amount of drivers out there at this point, which leads to missing routes, which leads, I think we're about 3 routes in the hole every day as far as the ability to cover those, which ends up picking those up after they're done with their other ones, and then ends up being an overtime issue, collecting after hours just to catch up with what we're seeing until we can get the right amount of staff out there to do those collections.
So in the past, and I would assume it's still the same, maybe it's not, it used to be that they did 4 10-hour days. But if they finished their route in 5 hours, they got paid for 10 hours. Is that still the case?
Well, right now we're on the 4 to 12, 12 to 8.
Okay, I'm
That's what we're
on
doing,
the 4 to
so-
12 shift. Okay, I finish my route by 10:30. Do I get paid till 12?
Right now, if you finish your route for whatever reason early, you're picking up those extra routes, so we can try to minimize our overtime.
So they're not
So
getting...
we're doing
they're
as
not
much
getting
work
paid.
as we can in those work days. So if you finish a route, you're filling on those routes that were unfinished from previous efforts.
Okay,
Right now, it's a constant struggle. We don't have a luxury right now of figuring out what to do with people if there's nothing to do to even answer that question, honestly.
Okay, and so we're dropping roughly 3 routes a week? I
That
think if
is
I
how many,
understood
if you
that.
compare our drivers to routes, what we're on average facing if they did a single route. So everybody that's trying to collect the routes, if they have the possibility to finish a little early, if they, for whatever reason, were able to do that, they're picking up, and everybody collectively is trying to cover those unfinished routes. So that's in the hole, and then what we're trying to do is minimize that overtime by covering those other routes.
Okay, Jamie, I'd appreciate an after-hour number.
Thank you, for sure.
All right.
Are we asking of all the divisions, or just, of all of the traffic and lighting, not just...
Well,
Refuge?
you have the director in front of you. If you want to talk to an individual commissioner, you have the opportunity to address that right now. So if you want to talk to, street lighting, when it comes to paving, whatever you want to talk to, Alderman. So as long as the questions are germane to the budget. Now, if you got any issues dealing with your ward, then let's do that on the sidebar. We just want to get down to the budget. That's what we want to go ahead and talk about right now. So, all righty. So, Alderwoman Murphy, you're next.
No, I don't think I have any questions. Well, maybe one, the new speed humps, are they in the pavement?
Yes, they're integral to the pavement, yes. So they get milled down with about 2.5, 3 inches into the pavement themselves, and then that final lift comes over the top,
Okay.
yes.
Because ever since that was on TV the other day, the phone's been ringing off the hook about speed humps. They did it in Tower Grove area or something. So you would wait till after your street was paved? If I'm scheduled to have a
Either
street
way.
paved? Oh, okay.
You could do either way. So in the end, if Kent were to come in and pave the road, and he would do a mill, however deep he goes, and go continuously over the hump, and then he'd be able to pave them right back over the hump. So they're
And how
integral
many
with
have you
pavement.
done on a block? I guess
It depends completely on the block itself and the adjacent traffic control that's around it and how long that block is.
Okay.
So some blocks that were double blocks, they might receive 3. Some blocks that are short blocks, it's 1. It really just depends along the area and what the surrounding traffic control looks like and how long of a distance we're looking at.
Okay, good. All my other questions are germane just to my ward. Thank you.
We can talk later about it.
Okay. Alderwoman Murphy. I'm Boyd. Sorry.
I just have, one question. You said, Jamie, you said the crossing guards are under the street department?
The funding for them, yes.
Are they?
And then we
That's real
manage-
interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. And then the other thing is, and probably we could talk afterwards. If you have a street that's a snow route, and it's not a snow route because the bus doesn't come through there anymore, can I get with you all to see how to get it to be not a snow route?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
You want to speak for them? We'll look at it, and it's absolutely a possibility.
Okay, yeah, it was years ago when the bus went through there, but the bus line doesn't go through there anymore.
Okay. Yeah,
All
let's talk about that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Alderman Muhammad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, back to the school crossing guards. Do they even report to you? Do they report
One of
to you,
our,
or-
one of our inspectors supervises them, manages that.
Okay. So because I remember the big fuss about it, was about 2 years ago, if that. Did you get extra allocations, or was this just automatically taken out your budget?
That was previous to me being there, but I believe it was, I think there's about 22 schools for that, and there was only funding for 3, I believe. I believe the city actually, I don't know what division it was, found the funds to support all of the schools for fiscal 18.
Yeah, I mean, this is only $17,000.
Currently we do not have that. It's, I can look it up here. It should be over 100,000, I believe.
No? I see 17. I see
118. Oh, last year, oh. So this year's 118,000, okay, yeah. So fiscal 18 was 17,000, so there was only funding for a couple schools out of that. But to do all the schools, it was 118,000.
Okay. Got it. So, clerical supervisor, no one is in that position now, right?
That was one of the positions that's a lower grade level than the executive assistant, and that was the person that would take care of the day-to-day interaction with our permit clerks up front.
Okay.
Combination of such for the executive administrative position.
Gotcha. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I have no further questions. I think you guys do a great job.
Thank you.
Like I said, every time I see Deanna and Kent, I know I always bug them. Send them like constant emails, and they always respond in great timing. I think you guys do a fantastic job.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
Thank you, Alderman. I agree with him. Yes, we have Alderwoman Davis. You go ahead.
For our recycling, I know that we have a lot of information available, and I know that that department has positioned itself to help this community do more recycling. But what else is it that we need to be doing? The budget looks fine. I'm not worried about the budget. It appears as though everybody has we have enough money in there for us to purchase what we need in our own budgets. I know I don't need any more recycling bins. but is there something else that we need to be doing? Because our city is really not generating enough in recycling based on where we thought we would be now. And that's really income to the city as well. So tell me what else we need to be doing.
Recently, the Chinese who take like 80% of our recycling are refusing to take it because it's too contaminated. It looks like recycling is going through a very bad period. It's going to cost us more to process the recycling, almost as much as the trash.
Wow.
It's very recent. I can send you articles, but it's not good.
Oh, that is not good.
So the efficiency of recycling for the time being is not economically sound to spend more money on it.
Okay, okay. Huh. That's not what I wanted to hear.
I know. I've got articles, Wall Street Journal.
Oh, I trust you. I trust you.
It's just recently that they've just, it might have something to do with the trade situation too, that possibly could, because the United States is having trade negotiations with China.
That is just not good. Okay, thank you.
All righty. And in reference to the speed humps, you know, you guys are doing an excellent job on that. I know the cost is $2,500, but you know, a lot of people are like, wow, that's so expensive. It is, but it's money well spent, I think, when it comes to really slowing down the traffic. As you know, today you have a lot of speeding that's taking place throughout our neighborhood, so I think those speed bumps are very helpful. One more question I had about the LED lighting, and I know it was, I think it's a $2 million loan. So, in that $2 million loan, that would complete the total city. Will that cover our total city? Oh, go ahead.
No, it doesn't cover the whole city. So the $2 million loan that we received in November, we are starting to spend that money now. And within, I'll say 12 months, probably by next February, we should have those lights installed. Once those lights are installed, that takes us to about 40% complete about with our transformation over to the entire 55,000 lights that we have in the city. So we talked about trying to do a bulk loan at the beginning and try to do a mass replacement, and there's a lot of downfalls in doing that because in 15 years, when they all burn out, we'll have to do the same thing again. So this way, and having it kind of spread out over about 6 to 8 years, that gives us 6 to 8 years, and we're never in this position of, okay, now I have, 5,000 lights that are all out in the same time. So this gives us that time, that spread.
And then, I guess the main boulevards.
Yes.
Do you guys use, do you know if you will use any of the earnings tax money that should come out of the mayor's pot? Because I know we have the residential streets, and I work with you on that, and coming out of the half cent sale tax, implementing LED lights throughout the neighborhoods in 26th Ward. But when it comes to the large streets, do you know how that works when it comes to funding those?
So I took all the large streets that we had, not all of them, but a major portion of them with the very first LED loan that we did back in 2016, 16-17 year. And we changed all of the LEDs along those major arterial routes. So those are in majority done unless they have some decorative lights on them. So we haven't even touched the decorative lights. So if there are some older projects that had the decorative lights out there, those are probably still in the high pressure sodium type bulbs. Once we finish all the Cobra heads, then we can come back in and look, unless the aldermans are wanting to go through a type of retrofit. And there's a couple areas that are doing that now. Anything new coming in over the last 3 years is all been LED. So any of those new projects, we're ensuring that that's in those plans, that they have, I'll say, the technology's evolved so that there's plenty of options for the decorative lights to be in LED.
Okay, all right, very good. Well, you're doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
Figured you sure are.
Thank you, Alderman.
So is Kent. Appreciate all the hard work he does. Thanks, Kent. Jamie doing a great job. Now, Mr. Young, I don't know. I tell you, no, I'm just,
Nick's
we like
okay.
you, Dick. We all right with us. All right. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. We're still adjourned. Thank you.